It has been said that mental health is the foundation upon which character is built. It shapes how we navigate challenges, grow through adversity, and define our resilience. Let's talk about mental health and character development on today's episode of the Playing with a Purpose podcast. All right, welcome to the Playing with Purpose podcast, where we explore topics related to the moral development of collegiate athletes and young people as it pertains to character, responsibility, and purpose. I'm your host, Matt Barker, and today I'm excited to have the director of the University Counseling Center here at Freed-Hardeman, Mr. Nathan Judd, with me on today's program. Nathan, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much for having me. I think we need just a little bit more cowbell, though. Just a little bit. It's not quite enough.
You're getting Nathan's personality right off the bat here. I love it. This is going to be a fun episode. I've really been looking forward to it, and mainly because this is a topic that is talked about a lot in today's world. A lot of people maybe don't fully understand exactly what it means. So I think it's important to kind of get a good understanding of what mental health, when we talk about that, and this is especially true with all people, but when we think about specifically this podcast, we talk a lot with athletes and college students in general, and this is a big hot topic for a lot of them. A lot of things that they struggle with. And so I thought this was a good topic. And I couldn't think of anybody better than Mr. Nathan Judd to come on. He is the director of the University Counseling Center. A lot of experience with college students specifically in the practice that he has here at Freed-Hardeman. So thank you for being with me.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's been a long road to get here. And I've been at Freed for about 3 years now in this role. Finishing up my third year, and it's been quite the journey. For that, private practice for a couple years, working in a residential treatment center with adolescents struggling with drug addictions, and so I've been in the field. It feels like a long time, man.
Yeah, and that was at Youth Town is where you used to work for. How many years were you there?
It gets a little blurry near the end. I was building the private practice, and so it's like not really an employee, but still doing work for them. But I started in July of 2009 and started building my private practice in August of 2020, which there was a few things going on in 2020.
Right. Yeah, there's COVID and all that good stuff. Mm-hmm. So speaking of some of the common challenges, we speak on this podcast a lot about college students, athletes. We talk about a lot of different demographics there. But what are some of the common mental health challenges that you see among college students specifically today?
Sure. We keep up with data in the University Counseling Center. And hands down, the most prominent issue we see in our offices is anxiety. And we get a lot of depression as well. But typically, anxiety, we do about twice as many sessions dealing with anxiety than depression, which is number 2. And we see a lot of other things that the students struggle with, just themes and challenges. A lot of the guys have pornography struggles. That's almost universal, I would say. It's just, a tough thing for guys now, and even girls too. But I think it's as hard as it is for guys to talk about it. I think the girls may have trouble talking about it more. There's a stigma there, but we see some eating disorders, relationship struggles, work with trauma, and honestly, if we really engage our stories. We all have experienced some sort of trauma in one way or the other. But to summarize all that up, anxiety, so much anxiety running across the campus.
Yeah, I looked up, because we hear mental health and everybody probably has a different outlook on what that means to them. I looked up kind of what is the definition of mental health, and it said person's emotional, psychological, and social well-being, and it affects how you handle stress. Okay, so you mentioned trauma. There's all kinds of stress that everybody has in their life, and it's our response to that sometimes that can impact our mental health. One of the things I looked up on here that was very interesting to me, specifically dealing with college students, was irregular sleep patterns.
Oh my
and
goodness.
I'm like, okay, so that if that can impact your mental health, then every college student is going to struggle, because we never had, when I was in college, I never had good sleep patterns. So what's your thought on that? Is that true, or is that something that maybe you've seen as well?
It was true for me.
Yeah.
I'm going back. I just remember my roommate and I, we had a really loud surround sound, and we downloaded sound bites, and we would put the speakers in the hallways at about 3 a.m. every night. You may remember this.
I think I maybe remember
Yeah, Matt
this.
was in the same dorm as me, but you were on a different floor.
I was on second. You were on first, I believe.
Yeah, so but if you heard a train coming through or
hilarious.
an air raid or something, like, that was us making sure everybody knew, like, stay on your guard.
Yeah.
But that was totally normal, and I think that the college students experienced that too. There's an acronym to kind of simplify things sometimes. It's HALT. Don't let yourself get too hungry, angry, lonely, or tired. Oh my goodness, these poor students. They start out the semester so pumped up and like, this is gonna be the semester.
Best semester yet. Yeah.
And then by the time, this time of the semester, they're like walking around like zombies.
Yep.
And that's every semester that happens. And I start seeing it like right before midterms,
Right.
in my office. That's when the email list picks up and
Yep.
it's like, can I get in really soon? And always right before midterms, and then steady to the end of the
Right.
semester.
Yeah, it kind of segues into my next question I had for you. How do academic pressures, this time of year, finals coming up, how have you seen academic pressures contribute maybe to mental health, and maybe what are some strategies that students can use to manage this more effectively?
Yeah, take care of yourselves, please.
Yeah.
We plan to do all these things in the beginning of the semester, and we have time, and then work catches up to us, and we let the things go that helps us to enjoy life. But what I encourage a lot of the students to do when they get into it and assignments are just coming from left to right is plan out your whole semester academically. I remember one semester in grad school, I took way too many hours, and I bought a physical planner, and you could open up each page to a different week.
Yeah.
And I sat down with every one of my syllabi, wrote down every single assignment that was due, and then I worked backwards from there, like what realistically do I need to get done each day so that I'm not having a ton of work pile up on me. And I just encourage people who are in college, stay organized. Then I'm on pace, I'm behind, I'm ahead, I can slow down. You don't have 20 assignments coming out of nowhere when you're already stressed. It's so disorienting if you're not organized. And so one thing I offer them is just get organized, know where you are in the semester, and then plan out the things you're going to do to take care of yourself. Go lay in a hammock. Go on dates. Go watch your favorite TV show. Get plenty of sleep. Don't stay up till 3 a.m. doing air raids.
Yeah.
Just take care of yourself.
Don't do what Nathan did in college.
That's right. I
do as I say, not as I did.
Yeah, and a little encouragement. It'll work out. If you do all those things, it will work out. Sitting here at 41, and a lot of times the students come in and they're just like world falling apart.
Right.
And I'm like, man, it's going to be okay.
It's going to be all right.
It's going to be okay.
So thinking specifically about, I talk a lot about college athletes. That adds a whole nother layer when we start thinking about college athletes, because you have those academic pressures. Yeah. Then you also have the pressure, we need to win games. They're gone a lot more than a lot of students are because they're traveling so much. Is there other strategies maybe for students like that maybe don't have as much of the social aspect, especially during certain times of the year when they're super busy, that they can do on their own with themselves that maybe would help them?
Yeah, I think the answer would still be the same, but even more so prioritizing some things that you need to do to take care of yourself. Life doesn't need to be all about working hard all the time. And just a reminder that your value doesn't come from the sport you play or the status you have or your grades. Asking yourself, like, what is my true identity? Again, at 41, I think maybe I see that a little more clearly now, but I mean what I'm saying there, like, remember what's really important, and make sure you're setting time to take care of yourself and viewing yourself in a good way. But I'll say what I see with the athletes a lot of times is there's like a grit there, and that's not a bad thing. I think sometimes that's necessary, but I think back on my life, I did these long distance races and everything, and I just thought I was able to handle more and just never stop, and that's just who I was. And at some point a few years ago, I was like, I need to rest too. Like, I don't need to grind all the time. But I think athletes get used to being in that
competitive environment.
Yeah, and they don't pay attention to what's going on internally, and they think they're fine because they're managing, and everything looks like they're managing, but eventually that catches up to you.
Yeah,
You know?
absolutely. You mentioned the word identity, and we all have a different view of what our identity is. And I think a lot of that has to do with social media.
Oh,
We
for sure.
compare ourselves to people that we are around, people that even just in the media in general, and we place our value a lot of times in how we compare to that. So the next thing I wanted to kind of touch on a little bit was, how has social media become a big part of college students' lives, and how does that impact their mental health, maybe both positively and negatively?
Yeah. I hadn't thought about the positive. Yeah, there certainly are some positives. I think when we have this discussion, it's usually focusing on the negative. But yeah, there's definitely a bunch of positive from it, just staying connected and those sorts of things. But yeah, when we put our value, our identity in our social media presence, that's definitely, I think at this point we all know nobody puts their worst self out on social media. There are a few people I can think of who have done that, and I actually love that. I think that's awesome. But most people put out the smiling pictures and the accomplishments they have, and they're not telling you what's going on in their family or with their friends or a girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever it may be. But yeah, I even think I've been guilty of letting too much social media in my life. On the campus, if you're familiar with college, you know about Yik Yak.
Yeah,
And,
it's all over the place.
Oh, it's the worst thing. I'm Yik Yak free all year this year. But when I came on in the role, I was coming in after a really tough mental health year at Freed Hardeman, and we had pretty much a whole changing of the guard in our office, and just I felt like I wanted to make sure that we had a good perception among the students, and so I was just watching Yik Yak, and if anything comes up with the UCC, and thankfully it's been mostly positive on there, which is crazy that there's any positive on Yik Yak.
Right.
But I just would worry, like, what are they going to say all the time? And that's just not healthy. And it's a few people that have the most outspoken views on there. And, people are funny on there. We got some comedians, but it's not good for your mental health.
Yeah.
Yik Yak is awful. It's awful.
Yeah, and there's other apps similar to that. Yik Yak is one of those that's anonymous, so people can post whatever they want. Nobody really knows who it is, so they're they express themselves more freely. Communication, we call it hyper-personal communication. They're just like throwing it out there, don't really care what anybody thinks about it. One other thing I wanted to talk about is, I think we mentioned this at the beginning, but there is maybe sometimes a stigma around mental health. We hear that word used a lot. A lot of times people maybe don't even use it correctly when they're talking about something. They might just be having a bad day and they're like, my mental health is bad, and maybe it's not fully grasping what the whole definition of mental health is. So there's maybe kind of a stigma around it. You mentioned that sometimes students are hesitant to maybe seek help because maybe they think they can handle it, or maybe they're just maybe a little bit of pride, like, I'm good. I'm not a weak person. I don't need people to help me with that. So there's sometimes maybe the stigma, maybe it's like I'm not as strong of a person if I have to seek help. So there might be that stigma there. How can maybe we reduce that? Because it's perfectly normal. As you mentioned, everybody struggles with something. We've all had some sort of trauma, and sometimes you need to deal with that in order to live a healthy life. So what are some ways maybe we can reduce that stigma?
I think doing this, for one, just talking about it, and I have a response in sessions lately, and I mean it in a very loving way. I hope I can voice this well on the podcast, but it's just kind of, so what,
Yeah.
Like if a girl comes in and says she's struggling with pornography, for instance, like, girls aren't comfortable saying that. But I think if they sit with somebody and they have that, okay, so, I just think we create a safety to destigmatize some of these things that typically carry a lot of shame. And I think we've done a poor job as Christians to not create that environment. And that's what we're called to do. So, I mean, none of us is perfect. And I think shame, we think, if you really knew me, you wouldn't like me. But I think we need to start showing our true selves to each other. Starting like as yourself, sharing your story, which lets other people know it's safe as well. I think that can destigmatize it. I will say there's like a push on the other end of that, though, that like people identify with their mental health struggles, and I don't think that's necessarily good either. I think a healthy balance of let's just show up authentically and be human beings.
Yeah. Absolutely. Coming into college, we've all, when we graduate from high school, 18 years old, we get into college. Do you tend to see a little bit more of these issues come up when students are on their own for the first time, maybe here at Freed-Hardeman, maybe at another college? Is this an issue that, maybe they don't have as much support from home as they did when they were in high school and they were on their own, and they tend to have a little bit more of these struggles now? Or is it something maybe that they've always had, they just didn't maybe realize it until they were in college? And how has the college experience maybe shaped that a little bit?
Yeah, I think maybe there's not a one-size-fits-all answer to that. I mean, stepping out into college is a huge adjustment, but I think I would encourage parents to let their kids struggle some when they're growing up.
Yeah.
Don't protect them from discomfort. Discomfort is where we actually grow, and the Bible speaks to that. Rejoice when you encounter suffering, because suffering produces endurance, character, and character the confident hope of salvation. And so when we try to avoid discomfort, we're actually robbing ourselves of an opportunity to grow. And so I think, in relation to your question, when they come to college and they haven't been allowed to suffer, and now they have all this freedom, and they're interacting with other adults whose brains are almost developed but not fully developed, and they just have situations come up, and they're exposed to things that they haven't been before, and they're not walking in and seeing their parents in the living room when they get home. There's just that's a lot of freedom, and I think it's probably not best to go from 0 to 100 there. As parents, let your children slowly grow into that, instead of it being sort of a shell shock, and then they get the freedom. They're like, this is what I've been waiting for my whole life. Yeah.
So you mentioned this a little bit, but character is one word that came to my mind when you said that's mental health, and addressing these issues can help you grow and be more resilient. So in your opinion, how does a student's mental health impact their ability to grow and develop character? So by going through these struggles, hopefully you are learning from it, and you develop that character to how to respond differently, maybe in different situations. How have you seen maybe what you do in the University Counseling Center addressing some of these mental health issues? How does that help students grow?
Yeah, I think a lot of times people want to come to counseling and maybe they know they need to address some things. I'm thinking trauma, for instance, or any anxiety disorder. For example, when I was a kid, I got stuck in an elevator. Ruby Falls. I've
heard this story. You spoke to my class about it. It's freaked me out ever since. I don't like elevators either.
Connor Byers, if you're out there, this was your fault. I have no idea where you are.
We'll make sure he listens to this episode if he hadn't listened to any others.
Yeah, Boyd Buchanan School, 2nd grade.
No, he remembers it vividly.
Oh, man, it was awful. In my mind, it was like that old rickety fence thing that kind of opens and closes. And that's how they protected kids in the 80s from ripping their arms off by touching the rock as the elevator's going down.
Oh, man.
So now it's a nice, pretty glass door.
Right.
But they're like, if you touch the door, then the elevator would stop, and that was safe. But anyway, Connor Byers touched that door, and the elevator came to a stop, and I lost it. Every fear I had about that elevator was confirmed, and I'm stuck in the elevator. And so anyway, I developed a huge phobia of elevators, and what I now know was all enclosed spaces. But the way I overcame that was I saw a counselor who eventually had me riding elevators all around Chattanooga. And it wasn't pretty, man. It wasn't pretty. My parents were pulling me into elevators in the mall as I'm kicking and screaming. Like, you can just imagine how that looked. And I'm not exaggerating. I wish I was. But I'm not scared of elevators anymore, though. And my point is, when we avoid the things that make us uncomfortable, the discomfort grows and it gives it power. And so we need to lean into addressing the things that make us uncomfortable. And that's a general statement. That is also true with trauma, but I would say when we talk about actual big traumas that people have faced, that needs to be done with a professional, because there are certain techniques or outlooks or psychoeducation around that can help that to be done in a way that you do grow, and so you're not just facing it and not knowing what to do with it. But as a general rule of thumb, we need to step into these painful points and not avoid them.
Yeah. I had Tony Allen on early on in this podcast, and we talked about community responsibility and how looking out for others, doing things for others can really help not only character, but just how you develop as a person. Have you seen extracurricular activities, maybe volunteering, community service, just looking out for others? Does that support your mental well-being? And if so, maybe how have you seen that maybe happen?
Oh, for sure. I don't know how that works, but it definitely works. I just think about how you go and you do something good for someone and all of a sudden you feel better about yourself. I think Freed does a good job of that too. There's a service day.
University Servants Day?
Yeah. And all the students take a day off of class and they go into the community and do good things. I just think that's awesome. You're stepping away from the stress of school and class and going and ministering to people. And, I know we're here to get a degree, but is that really that important? I don't want to minimize it, but we're not called by God to get a degree. We're called by God to love others. And so I think when we do that, we get to see God's love. We get to share God's love with other people, and that's bound to make people feel better.
One of the things with University Servants Day, too, is they usually have different people that are organizing different things, whether that's social clubs or faculty members or staff that are doing this, sometimes to be more intentional about this is not only just what we're doing, but why we're doing it. So it kind of brings in this idea of mentors and coaches or professors or advisors, whatever you want to call it. How have you seen maybe the role of mentors or advisors play in helping students develop a healthy mindset? Maybe not necessarily just with mental health, but just in general, having a healthy mindset of outlook on who you are, but also what you can contribute as well.
Yeah, I don't see that side of the students' interactions with mentors as much. And I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I'm just saying that doesn't work its way to me as much. But I'm thinking about a personal experience. And I have someone that I consider a mentor. When I was in grad school, I kind of felt like Ryan Fraser was a bit of a mentor at that time, and I really looked up to him. And then when I was kind of mid to late 20s, I got a friend, Mike Roby. He was at Freed. He was at Youth Town when I was there for a long time. And then he went on to Area Relief Ministry in Jackson, which he became the director there and helped people struggling with homelessness. But he very much was a mentor to me when I was at Youth Town. And if you know Mike, he's just so outgoing and just so fun to be around. But he also will put you in your place so fast. And I just remember doing something, I don't want to say stupid, but young, kind of a rash decision. And him pulling me to the side and being like, "What are you doing?" And at the time, immediately, I was kind of mad at him. But, I mean, I just look back and think, what a good friend to not try to make me feel good, but, like, to point out, hey, that was – I mean, he would be like, that was dumb, you know. So I appreciate it. Think what you want about that. I look back on it fondly and think he was, like, one of those guys chipping away at iron sharpening iron. And that's just so important. It doesn't feel good in the moment.
Yeah.
A good mentor is, again, suffering produces character and salvation, and that's a good mentor that's going to tell you the truth. So have those people in your life that are going to build you up, but also not break you down.
Yeah,
but
be real with you a little bit.
Yeah.
This is a question I've kind of wanted to get your take on too. I had this wrote down, and I was kind of interested to see what you would say. You see a lot of challenges that students face today. In the next 5 to 10 years, is it going to be some of the same challenges they're facing in 5 to 10 years, or is there going to be some additional challenges mental health-wise that they face here in the next 5 to 10 years?
Man, it's
a tough one.
Yeah, and like predicting the future.
Yeah.
Based off of what I see now. I'm going to say there are some good things that are happening first. We see a lot of people struggling with pornography, and I just think there's still a long way to go in that discussion, but a lot of the guys are getting more comfortable talking about it at this age. So maybe it's become so commonplace. I don't know. It's probably always been commonplace, but the discussion about that, at least among college guys talking with each other, has become a lot more normalized. I think that's a good thing. And so I hope that's a trend that continues into other areas. As far as struggles and challenges, where I would picture it going is people's lives are so out in the open now, and we have to portray an image all the time is how it feels. I think about my daughters. They watch, they're 10 and 13, and they've got these YouTube channels that they watch that I don't even remember, like Jordan Matters and I don't know. You may know
Yeah,
some
yeah.
of these, Matt, but
Seen them all, yeah.
yeah. But I had a YouTube channel for a while, and I would try to put out a video every week or something. That was exhausting.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine walking around with a camera for every moment of your life thinking, like, how are we going to make this content? And is that really who these people are, or is that who they're portraying in front of a camera? And I've got to imagine that world is going to have an impact on kids growing up nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, you would think so. I mean, that's people constantly having a camera in their face. It's, again, they're not really living a real life, and then in the way they have to kind of contemplate with that later on, like who am I, like what is my identity? So that's definitely probably going to be a challenge in the next 5 to 10 years, if not in the next couple years. It's going on right now. So
I would even say I would love, maybe this is out there, but I would love it if a family put those cameras out, and instead of having these funny games and challenges, like those rock bottom moments for the family, that the camera stayed out and like, here's what real life is. Maybe that would be healthy. Maybe that would be better. But it's just always this fun challenge, and it's not real life. Yeah.
So we talked about the challenges sometimes of going from high school to college, and how there can be some challenges there with being the first time on your own. A whole nother challenge comes into play when students graduate. They're in an environment here at Freed-Hardeman. A lot of people call this the bubble. They have their, friends around them. They have a university counseling center if they need some assistance. So in your experience, what has been the most effective strategies for helping students transition from college life to post-college life after graduation, getting into the real world, working, maybe starting a family? What are some maybe strategies that can help them as they transition out of college?
Yeah, I think my answer to that is whatever it is, just let it be what it is. Because I could say things that are true. I could say, make sure you have a friend group, make sure you have a good church home, make sure you've got a good job, a mentor. And I do think all those things are true. But I think even saying that, somebody might put pressure on themselves to think, I've got to have these things in place. And then, all my friends moved away. And like, what am I going to do? They said this is what I need to do. And now those things aren't in place. And again, 41-year-old Nathan, this younger version of myself, and says, it's okay, bud. Like, it's really okay. It's going to work out. Like, we can put so much pressure on ourselves to control it all and figure it out and make sure it's all in place. But we really don't have that much control. If I believe in God as I understand him, then he's at the wheel. And, I just think he's looking at me scrambling around trying to figure it all out. And he's just like, oh, that's cute. Look at him. He thinks he's doing something. Just enjoy life, just even when it's stressful, just put your heart where it needs to be. Lean on the people that you have around you. Be real with them. Don't put too much stress on yourself about figuring it all out. God's going to put you where you need to be when you need to be there. He's going to put the people in your life who need to be there when they need to be there. Just show up and be a good person and love other people. And that's normal, man. I went through that when I was in college. I had a little bit of a quarter life crisis, 1/5 life crisis. My degree at the time, I'm not going to get into that, but
it's a music degree.
Oh man, I wasn't going to say it.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, that's okay.
You were also a Make a Music host. Woo! I had Soko on last week. He was also.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, he was a 2-time Make a Music host. So yeah, but that degree, I didn't get it in music ed or anything like that. Nobody pulled me aside to say, hey, what are you going to do with this? It was just a degree in music. And so in my junior year, I started having a realization of, I don't know what I'm going to do the rest of my life. And so I minored in psychology and went on to get my master's in counseling. And that's how that worked out. But anyway, so I went through it too. It's going to be fun. God's going to put you where you need to be, and just enjoy the ride. It's a fun deal.
Yeah. Well, Nathan, I really appreciate having you on today. A lot of your experience, it's really good. I think we need to have another episode on the pranks that you pulled in college. I think that would be an entertaining episode. And I was probably present for some of those. We'll have to have you on again to talk about some of that.
There you go.
So awesome. Well, I appreciate it, Nathan. Thanks for joining us for this week's episode of the Playing with Purpose podcast. Special thanks again to Nathan Judd for being my guest this week. Be sure to check out this episode and future episodes on Spotify or anywhere you listen to podcasts. You can also catch the Playing with the Purpose podcast on the Ministry League Podcast Network, Freed-Hardeman Athletics Champions of Character website at gofhulions.com/champions of character, and on the NAIA Champions of Character website at naia.org/champions of character. Join us for our next episode as I talk with Freed Hardeman Bible professor Dr. Josh Ketchum on the topic of church family and faith. And remember, winning isn't just about the scoreboard, it's about the character we build along the way. We'll see you next time on the Playing with a Purpose podcast.